A few million years ago, our hominid ancestors started controlling fire. At first, cooking meat made it safer to eat and more nutritious too. But that's not what I'm talking about today. Instead, I want to focus on the effect of firelight on our brains. Hi, and welcome to this channel. As the sun set each day, our ancestors could use firelight to extend their day, to see and do more things. It may not sound like a big deal now, but think about how much of an impact electric light has had on you. You probably take it for granted, but without electricity, you would have to go to bed when it got dark. You wouldn't be able to stay up late and watch videos or get that much done. And if you live far from home, say in a dorm or a hotel, you might not even be able to study or work at night at all. Firelight isn't electricity, obviously, but it does have a similar effect on our circadian rhythms, our sleep-wake cycles. And because our ancestors had no way of knowing when the sun would rise, they had to rely on the more consistent light of fire. Now, this may sound simple, but seeing as our ancestors used firelight instead of sunlight as a time cue, it had some major implications for brain evolution. For example, it helped our brains develop into the big complex organs that we have today. Some scientists even think that the ability to control fire was one of the key factors that allowed Homo erectus to migrate out of Africa and into Europe and Asia. That's a pretty bold statement. How can we possibly know that? Well, anthropologist Eric Smith and his colleagues compared the skulls of Homo erectus with those of earlier hominids. They found that the shape of the Homo erectus skull was strongly associated with the ability to produce enough energy to fuel a large brain. In other words, Homo erectus needed a lot of calories to power their noggin. Controlling fire provided that energy. In fact, researchers think that the switch from Homo habilis, which had smaller brains, to Homo erectus, which had bigger brains, happened right after our ancestors learned to control fire. And that's not the only evidence for the connection between fire and brain evolution. Our brains need a lot of oxygen too, and oxygen is more efficiently delivered via blood vessels than by any other means. So having larger blood vessels around your brain is another adaptation that may have helped our ancestors use energy more efficiently. Compared to Australopithecines, Homo erectus had larger blood vessels around their brain, and the development of those blood vessels started, shifting our brain S position in our skulls. This change in blood vessel structure happened right around the same time that Homo erectus appeared, suggesting that the ability to control fire may have driven these changes too. It is also possible that exposure to bright light from fires and flames may have been a powerful force in the evolution of our visual system. After all, our eyes are adapted to see well in dim conditions. While many animals can see better in the dark than we can, we're better at seeing fine details in dim light. And there's evidence that this ability developed after our ancestors split from other apes. So yes, the ability to control fire probably did help our brains evolve in lots of ways, including our visual system. But what about the effects of fire on our modern brains? Do we still need firelight to regulate our sleep-wake cycles the way our ancestors did? Probably not. We've been living with artificial light for hundreds of years. Even before electricity, people used candles and oil lamps to stay up past sunset. And nowadays, most people have screens of some kind nearby at all times. Because of this, most of us don't need firelight to keep us up, and we can usually decide for ourselves when it's bedtime. But that's not the case everywhere. And where fire is scarce, people often report sleeping less and having more disturbed sleep. And while our brains have probably changed a bit since the days of Homo erectus, we still have biological clocks that rely on light cues to keep us on a roughly 24-hour cycle. So until we move in with the fictional Vulcans who don't sleep at all, our brains will still benefit from the pleasant glow of firelight. If you like learning about how fire changed our brains forever, you can learn more about how human brains evolved by checking out the series in the description or by clicking the link below.